I'll fix that on the editing. I was thinking about theoretical time, a concept that Michael and I came up with in a ping pong voicemail discussion. That thought that I've talked about exists as an entity. Everything that exists has an entity. It must have an entity. If it doesn't exist, it doesn't have an entity. If it does, it does. So thought has the entity existing right there at the centre of the tesseract of the zero energy. Can you visualise the tesseract in your hand? And inside, what do you see? You see nothing. You don't see nothing, you see the inside of the tesseract. You see the inside of the tesseract. And that perspective in which you're seeing and observing the inside of the tesseract is unique, infinite and unrepeatable. Put yourself there. You can observe that space inside the tesseract. Take yourself and place yourself there at the very centre of the tesseract. And from your perspective, observe the universe and how far it goes. I'm saying it's an orbit of 10 to the 22 zeros, pi times. It's enormous, the universe. The past does not exist. The Schrodinger's cat horror experiment. The past doesn't exist if you have a perspective of it from the future. Which means that the universe that you're observing from your perspective inside the tesseract is being created in that moment. And the moments are H. And there are those 10 to the 33 zeros, moments per second. So an enormous amount of seconds and an enormous amount of creation taking place in that moment. How is that possible? That such an enormous structure can be constructed in such a tiny space of time. Well, come up with a system. Come up with one. Stand in the middle and go, okay, well, imagine if this was true, what would that mean for that? And what effect would that have on that? Because you're repeating fractal behaviour, which is the matrices. Heisenberg's speciality, of course. Fractal behaviour in turbulent flow. One thing affects another. So the lesson is, if you deliberately affect something, you are going to affect other things. And that the horror of the experiments that Heisenberg carried out using the Nazis and now using us is that he knows that the interference pattern changes when there is suffering in the room. I suspect because when he saw the interference pattern, he saw his own suffering reflected back at him, of the loss of love that he was, the hardened narcissist he'd become as the child that cried for love. And he saw that somehow in the interference pattern. And so the experiments he carried out in the concentration camps, which is what they were all about, was about just creating centres of suffering, demonstrated that there was a power there. So he built a system. He imagined a system based on what he saw. And then because of circumstances lining him up for the role of blackest evil in that moment, he created the world the way that he wants it, the power of theoretical thought, theoretical time. He imagined a system, it works, and he's running that system. So we're living in Werner Heisenberg's nightmare. You are. Some of us have found a way to peck out of our shells, and each path is different. But we've all come up with systems that work. They're a combination of religions, engineering, physics, philosophy, experience, wisdom, biology, chemistry, geology. Everything. The theory of everything is the theory of everything that you already have. You've already got the theory of everything. You just needed the key. And the key is theoretical time. One thing leads to another. A butterfly wing creates an earthquake. It's true. And you're the experiment. You're being experimented on. Proving that suffering can generate power. But the power that it generates is corrupt. And therefore everything it touches is corrupt. It's the reverse Midas touch. He's King Midas in reverse. And we're all suffering. So here's the experiment. Theoretical time. Think about a system that you'd like to live in that works for you. If you find at the end of the building of that system a morality and the love of species of life, then that's how reality works for you. And so the collective consciousness is just the next step. And Michael the Archangel and myself have been experimenting in collective consciousness. And last night we realised that we are the smartest human beings that have ever existed. We are, he and I, you and I, the unit, operating just like this. Very little actual conversations, much more ideas just thrown out. Thought, thinking about systems that work. So you can shortcut all that stuff yourself and just say, well, who's got a system that sounds really good to live in? You know, I'm if you took it as a, you know, X factor. So all these things are true. Whose story should we go with? Whose story should we go with? I've got a really good one. Yeah, you'll love mine. I promise. You could just go, yeah, all right, mate, you run the planet. And honestly, all I can say is trust me, because I'm an engineer and I just want to retire. A manager's job is to manage himself out of a job. That's going to be my job. And so I've got to make sure that I've assigned all the tasks to you, you've got all the tools you need, everything is ready to go, and there's a path to glory. It's available to everybody. There's ideas about that there are chosen people, and some people will go in numbers, and many people will die, and all this apocalyptic stuff that you'll see in Revelations and any of your holy texts. Disaster prophecies. Doesn't have to be that way. Critical mass. Critical mass can be achieved. So I need 3.5% of the population to watch this video and go, okay Martin, let's have a go with your experiment. It's parties with a promise of air swimming. That can be a headline. And you can use my brain which is the archangel's brain, which is Kilted's brain, which is our brain. We're just firing ganglions, building, recreating nature. The direction of travel for a species is towards nature. To understand its nature is to understand nature. To understand nature is to control nature. To control nature is to control your nature. To control your nature is to control nature. Behaviour is evolution. Let me guide you. Let me help you. At every step of the way, you will be choosing whether you're going this way or not. If you choose not to, God bless you. It's powerful, isn't it?